Get your hood rat hands off the wheel before I break them. Officer Harlan ripped Elena Hayes' door open, metal shrieking as he dragged her onto the gravel shoulder. Vance shoved her forward, his palm crushing the back of her neck as he muttered, "Women like you don't belong behind the wheel of cars like this." Harlan's taser buzzed inches from her, the electric snap louder than the passing traffic. "Don't look away," he hissed, gripping her chin. "I want you to remember who owns this road." When he cocked his fist to strike, Elena's punch connected first, sharp and explosive, freezing every witness mid-breath. None of them knew they'd just swung on a Delta Force commander. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. Commander Elena Hayes eased her SUV down the winding Georgia highway, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows through the pine trees. The drive from her mother's house usually brought her peace, a rare moment of quiet after years of classified missions. But today, something felt off. In her rear-view mirror, 2 patrol cars had been following her for the past 15 minutes, hanging back just enough to make their presence known. Her trained instincts kicked in as she maintained a steady speed, hands relaxed, but ready at 10 and 2 on the steering wheel. The cruisers suddenly accelerated, their engines roaring as they split apart, one cutting in front while the other boxed her in from behind. The lead car swerved sharply, forcing her to brake hard. Her SUV lurched to a stop on the shoulder, gravel crunching under the tires. "Keep your hands where we can see them." Deputy Harlan's voice boomed through a megaphone. He emerged from the lead car, hand already on his holster. Deputy Vance approached from the other side, his face twisted in a sneer. Elena lowered her window just 3 in, enough to communicate, but maintain protection. "Is there a problem, officers?" Harlan's face reddened as he stormed up to her window. "When a woman like you drives a car this nice, it's stolen. Get out before we remove you ourselves." Her jaw tightened, but she kept her voice steady. "This is my vehicle. I have registration, and did I ask you to talk?" Harlan grabbed her door handle, yanking it open. "Out now." Years of combat training screamed at her to react, but Elena forced herself to move slowly, deliberately. She stepped out with her hands raised slightly, her military-honed senses cataloging every detail. Harlan's aggressive stance, Vance's position behind her, the third officer now approaching from the backup car. Face the vehicle, legs spread. Harlan grabbed her shoulder, shoving her hard against the SUV. The impact knocked the breath from her lungs. "This is unnecessary," she stated calmly. "I'm a military officer." Vance's knee slammed into her ribs, cutting off her words. "Shut your mouth. You people always have excuses." The search was nothing more than an excuse for brutality. Rough hands patted her down with intentional force, lingering inappropriately. Elena's combat instincts flared with each violation, but she remained still, analyzing their positions, waiting. "Not so tough now, are you?" Harlan twisted her arm behind her back, pushing it up until pain shot through her shoulder. "Time to learn some respect." The third officer circled around, cracking his knuckles. "These types never learn respect until you teach it to them." Elena felt the cold metal of a taser press against her neck. Harlan's breath was hot on her ear as he growled, "Maybe this will help the lesson stick." "You really don't want to do that," she said softly, her tone carrying a weight of absolute certainty. Harlan laughed. "Oh, yeah, watch me." The taser crackled to life. In that instant, everything changed. Before the electrodes could make contact, Elena moved. Her elbow shot backward with crushing force, catching Harlan in the solar plexus. As he doubled over, she pivoted, using his momentum to throw him face first into the SUV's hood. Vance lunged, reaching for his baton. Elena dropped low, sweeping his legs out with a practiced move that sent him crashing to the asphalt. The third officer charged in, but she was already moving. She caught his wild punch, redirected his energy, and sent him flipping over her hip. He landed hard, the impact driving the air from his lungs. Harlan staggered up, blood streaming from his nose. He grabbed for his weapon, but Elena was faster. 2 precise strikes, one to his wrist, another to his knee, left him howling on the ground. Vance tried to get her in a chokehold from behind. She responded with fluid efficiency, gripping his arm and throwing her weight forward. He flew over her shoulder, landing on the hood with a heavy thud that left a deep dent in the metal. The third officer had managed to get to his feet, but the fear in his eyes showed he knew he was outmatched. He rushed her anyway, driven by desperation and wounded pride. Elena met his charge with controlled violence, a combination of strikes that left him sprawled beside his colleagues. In less than 30 seconds, all 3 officers lay groaning on the pavement. None had managed to land a single effective blow. Elena stood straight, her breathing calm and measured as the sound of approaching sirens filled the air. She didn't run, she didn't hide, she stood her ground, knowing this confrontation was far from over. The wailing sirens grew louder, but she remained perfectly still, her military bearing evident in every line of her posture. Harlan tried to push himself up, spitting blood onto the asphalt. You're going to regret this. No, Elena replied quietly, watching the first backup units appear on the horizon. I'm not the one who's going to have regrets about today. The sun was sinking lower now, painting the sky in deep oranges and reds. The same Georgia highway that had promised a peaceful drive home had become a battlefield, one that would soon draw more combatants. As the sirens grew closer, Elena stood ready, knowing that this was only the beginning of a war she never wanted, but would not back down from. Lieutenant Thorne's cruiser screeched to a halt at the scene, its headlights cutting through the growing dusk. The car door slammed with enough force to make the younger officers flinch. Thorne emerged like a storm cloud, his face purple with rage as he surveyed his injured men scattered across the asphalt. What in God's name happened here? He bellowed, his voice echoing off the pine trees, his eyes locked onto Elena, who stood perfectly still, her military bearing unchanged. Harlan pushed himself to his knees, still wheezing. She attacked us, Lieutenant. We were conducting a routine stop, en routine. Elena's voice cut through the air like steel. You dragged me from my vehicle without cause, assaulted me, and attempted to tase me. Thorne stormed toward her, his hand white-knuckled around his baton. You shut your mouth. I've got 3 good officers down because of you. Good officers don't assault civilians, Elena replied evenly. The baton came whistling through the air without warning. Most people would have been caught completely off guard, but Elena had seen the tension in his shoulder, the slight shift in his weight. She stepped inside the arc of his swing, deflecting the baton with her forearm while staying just out of his reach. Thorne snarled, launching into a series of wild strikes. Each attack met empty air as Elena moved with practiced efficiency. She didn't attack, she simply wasn't where his baton tried to be. Her control was perfect, her movements precise. Stand still, Thorne roared, his face growing redder with each failed attempt. Like your officers made me stand still. Elena's voice remained calm even as she redirected another blow. While they kicked me, searched me, threatened me. A small crowd had gathered on the roadside. Cell phones recorded everything, their screens glowing in the deepening twilight. Thorne noticed them and his fury doubled. Get those phones, he ordered. Confiscate every device. This is an active crime scene. Officers who had arrived as backup moved toward the witnesses, but their attention kept dragging back to Elena. They'd seen what she'd done to their colleagues. None wanted to be next. Thorne launched another attack, this time aiming for her knees. Elena caught the baton mid-swing. For a moment they stood locked together, his raw anger against her disciplined strength. Then she twisted, using his own momentum to send him stumbling forward. The baton clattered to the pavement. She could have ended him there. One strike to the back of his head, another to his kidney. He'd left himself completely open. Instead, she stepped back, hands raised slightly. That's enough, Lieutenant. We both know this stop was illegal. Illegal. Thorne straightened up, trying to mask his heavy breathing. The only thing illegal here is assaulting police officers. Take her down now. The backup officers hesitated, looking at their fallen colleagues, then at Elena's calm stance. Fear warred with duty on their faces. I won't resist, Elena said clearly, keeping her hands visible. But everyone here knows what really happened. 2 officers finally approached, their movements stiff with tension. They grabbed her arms roughly, but she didn't fight as they pulled them behind her back. The handcuffs clicked shut with unnecessary force. You're under arrest for assault on law enforcement officers resisting arrest and attempted murder. Thorne spat, retrieving his baton. He stepped close, his voice dropping to a whisper. You have no idea what you've just started. As they led her to a patrol car, Elena watched Thorne directing his men. Secure the scene. I want every phone, every camera, and someone find out what happened to our dash cam footage. The drive to the county station was tense. Elena sat silently in the back, observing everything through the cage partition. The officers up front kept glancing at her in the rear-view mirror, their nervousness evident in every jerky movement. At the station, she was processed with deliberate slowness. Each step seemed designed to maximize discomfort and humiliation. Through it all, she maintained her composure, gathering intelligence. She noted which officers avoided eye contact, which ones seemed uncomfortable with the situation, and which ones followed Thorne's lead without question. From her position in booking, she could see Thorne in his office, orchestrating the cover-up. Officers cycled in and out, each leaving with specific tasks. One carried out the dash cam hard drives. Another began typing what would undoubtedly be a falsified report. Computer systems acting up, an officer announced loudly. Might lose some files tonight. Thorne's smile was cold. These things happen. Technology is never reliable. They placed her in a holding cell away from other inmates. The concrete walls were cold, the metal bench unyielding. Elena sat with perfect posture, her training allowing her to find comfort in the discomfort. She'd survived worse conditions in far more hostile territories. Heavy footsteps approached. Thorne appeared at the bars, his face set in a smug expression. He'd regained his composure, apparently confident in his ability to control the narrative. "No judge in this county will believe your story," he said, tapping his baton against the bars. "It'll be your word against 3 respected officers. And now look at you. Just another violent offender in a cell." The fluorescent lights hummed overhead as 2 officers led Elena through the booking area. Her muscles ached from the hard metal bench, but she kept her posture straight, her face composed. The night had been long, filled with the echoes of drunk tanks and the occasional shouts of other inmates. "Processing for release hearing," one officer announced, refusing to meet her eyes. The booking sergeant typed slowly, deliberately drawing out each click of the keyboard. Lieutenant Thorne burst through the door, a thick folder tucked under his arm. His smile was all teeth and malice. "Going nowhere just yet. Got some paperwork to file first." He slapped the folder down, spreading out multiple charge sheets. "Assault on law enforcement officers. That's 3 counts. Resisting arrest. And my personal favorite." He held up the last form with theatrical flair. "Attempted murder. That's absurd," Elena said quietly, noting how several nearby officers shifted uncomfortably. "Is it?" Thorne's voice dripped with mock concern. "Officers Harlan and Vance tell a different story. How you exploded into violence during a routine stop. How you used military-style attacks that could have killed them. They're both in the hospital, by the way, thanks to you." "I want my phone call," Elena said. "And I'm requesting legal counsel." "Oh, certainly. We're all about proper procedure here." Thorne's laugh was harsh. Unlike some people who think they can assault officers without consequences. The phone call was brief. Within an hour, Jordan Reyes strode into the station, her heels clicking purposefully against the linoleum. Her sharp eyes took in everything. The officer's body language, the hastily posted duty roster changes, the way Thorne hovered near the booking desk. "I'm representing Commander Hayes," Jordan announced, her voice carrying. "I need to see all charging documents and incident reports immediately." Thorne tried to stare her down. "We're still processing the paperwork. These things take time." "Fascinating," Jordan replied, "especially since you've already leaked details to the press. I saw the morning news segment about the dangerous veteran who attacked your officers." She turned to Elena, speaking quietly but clearly. "This county has a history of protecting abusive officers. 8 similar incidents in the past year alone, all buried, but they've never tried to frame someone with your credentials. The dash camera footage will clear this up," Elena said. Jordan's smile was grim. "Let me guess. Technical difficulties. Equipment malfunction." Thorne cut in. "Real shame. But we have 3 officers' sworn statements about her unprovoked attack." 3 identical statements, I'm sure," Jordan replied. "We'll be requesting federal oversight. The pattern of civil rights violations in this department is too clear to ignore." While Jordan argued with Thorne about bail conditions, Elena observed the station's operations. She noted which officers handled evidence, which ones managed the computers, who had access to the security footage. Every detail was valuable intelligence. Through the station's windows, she could see news vans gathering. A reporter was already doing a live stand-up, gesturing toward the building. On the breakroom television, a local anchor read from a statement. Sources within the department described the suspect as mentally unstable, possibly suffering from PTSD. They're pushing hard to control the narrative, Jordan muttered, returning with release papers. But they made mistakes. The timing of the report submissions, the missing footage, the escalation of charges, it all shows coordination. We can use that. The bail process took another 2 hours. Every signature was scrutinized, every form double-checked. Thorne watched it all, his presence a clear message of intimidation. Finally, Elena stepped out into the harsh Georgia sun. News cameras swung toward her, but Jordan stepped in front, blocking their shots. No comments at this time. Any questions can be directed to my office. The drive home felt surreal. Every patrol car they passed seemed to slow down. Officers craning their necks to look. Jordan's words rang in Elena's mind. They'll try to isolate you. Make you feel watched. Don't let them. Her mother's neighborhood was buzzing with unusual activity. Neighbors stood in clusters, conversation dying as Elena's car passed. A news van idled at the corner, the reporter perking up at her approach. I'll have my team start building the case, Jordan said as they pulled up to Elena's house. We'll need to move fast before they destroy more evidence. Are you sure you don't want to stay somewhere else? This is my home, Elena replied simply. I won't be driven out. Jordan nodded understanding. Call me immediately if they try anything. And Commander, be careful. Men like Thorne are most dangerous when they're scared. Elena walked up her front path, aware of the cameras watching, the neighbors peeking through curtains. Her phone buzzed continuously, news alerts, social media mentions, messages from unknown numbers. The local station's website already had a headline, Violent Veteran Attacks Officers During Traffic Stop. Inside, her house was quiet, untouched. The silence felt like a refuge after the chaos of the jail. She closed the door, shutting out the world's noise, but her phone kept vibrating. Another alert. Police union demands maximum charges in officer assault case. Elena placed the phone face down on her counter. They wanted her to feel overwhelmed, isolated, afraid. But they didn't understand who they were dealing with. She'd faced worse odds in places where there were no rules, no cameras, no legal recourse. Here, at least there was a system, corrupt as it might be, that could be made to work. She looked at her reflection in the kitchen window, seeing the soldier she'd always been. No, she wouldn't be intimidated. Not by Thorne, not by his corrupt department, not by their media manipulation. They had started this fight thinking she was an easy target. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. The morning sky hung low and threatening as Elena backed out of her driveway. News vans had finally cleared out, but she spotted a patrol car parked 2 blocks down, poorly hidden behind a neighbor's oak tree. They weren't even trying to be subtle anymore. Her phone buzzed with a text from Jordan. Meet at office ASAP. Federal contact agreed to hear us. Elena checked her mirrors, noting another cruiser that had pulled out behind her 3 turns back. They were getting sloppy with their surveillance, which meant they were getting desperate. The parking garage near Jordan's downtown office loomed ahead, its concrete levels rising like a fortress in the gray morning light. Elena chose the 3rd level, away from the scattered cars on the lower floors. As she pulled into a space, her trained instincts registered multiple details. The echo of boots on concrete, the reflection of movement in parked car windows, the deliberate positioning of vehicles near the exit ramp. She stepped out of her car, keys in hand. I know you're here, she called out, her voice carrying across the empty level. Let's skip the theatrics. 4 deputies emerged from behind pillars and vehicles. She recognized Deputy Knox from booking, his young face tight with nervous energy. The others were older, harder looking. All carried batons, and their stance made it clear this wasn't an official visit. Lieutenant said, "You might cause problems." The largest deputy growled, tapping his baton against his leg. Said we should make sure you understand how things work around here. Before you meet those feds, another added, circling to her left. Accidents happen in parking garages all the time, especially to people who don't know when to keep quiet. Elena remained still, analyzing distances, positions, angles. They had planned this poorly, too spread out, too focused on blocking exits rather than coordinating their attack. Amateur mistakes that would cost them. Last chance to walk away, she offered, knowing they wouldn't take it. Knox rushed in first, eager to prove himself. His baton swing was wide, telegraphed. Elena stepped inside his reach, redirecting his momentum into a parked sedan. The impact dented the door and left him gasping. The others attacked together, but without coordination. Elena moved between concrete pillars, using the structure itself as both shield and weapon. A baton struck concrete where her head had been. She grabbed the weapon, twisting it and its wielder into another deputy's charge. They collided hard, cursing and stumbling. Elena seized the moment to disable Knox, who was trying to stand. A precise strike to his knee dropped him back down, followed by a controlled chop to the nerve cluster in his shoulder. He crumpled, conscious, but unable to rejoin the fight. Federal assault now, one deputy snarled, drawing a taser. You're just making it worse. Elena caught his wrist as the taser sparked, directing the electrodes into his partner's chest. The man convulsed and dropped. Before the taser-wielding deputy could react, she slammed his arm against a pillar, sending the weapon clattering across the concrete. The largest deputy bulrushed her, trying to pin her against a car. Elena used his momentum, adding to it with a hip throw that sent him skidding across the rough surface. He rolled to his feet, spitting blood, and charged again. This time she met him with his fallen partner's baton, striking pressure points in rapid succession. He went down hard, clutching his paralyzed arm. The remaining deputy backed away, fumbling for his radio. Elena closed the distance in 2 steps, trapped his hand before he could key the mic, and disarmed him with a wrist lock that left him kneeling in pain. Stay down, she ordered, applying just enough pressure to make her point clear. Unless you want to explain to the medics exactly how you dislocated your own shoulder. The garage echoed with groans and ragged breathing. Elena retrieved her phone, documenting the scene methodically, the weapons they dropped, the positions of the deputies, the damage to vehicles. She sent everything to Jordan with a quick text. Attempted assault in parking garage. 4 deputies need cleanup. Knox tried to speak through pain-clenched teeth. You don't understand. He'll kill us if we don't stop you. Then you should have thought harder about who you work for, Elena replied, checking each deputy's condition. None had life-threatening injuries, but they wouldn't be swinging batons again anytime soon. Footsteps echoed from the lower level. Civilians drawn by the noise. Someone was already on the phone with emergency services, their voice carrying. There's fighting in the parking garage. Send police. Elena collected the dropped weapons, arranging them clearly for photographs. More evidence of their attempted ambush. More proof of the department's desperation. The first hints of sirens wailed in the distance as she walked calmly toward the exit ramp. The deputies remained where they had fallen, perhaps finally understanding the magnitude of their mistake. Their groans and curses followed her down the concrete passages. She moved steadily, unhurried, her breathing controlled. The garage's shadows gave way to gray daylight. The sirens grew louder, approaching from multiple directions. Soon this level would be swarming with first responders and more of Thorne's corrupted force. But she had accomplished what she needed. The attack was documented. The deputies were neutralized without permanent injury. And most importantly, they had proven how far the department would go to silence her. The rising wind carried the sound of more sirens as Elena emerged onto the street. Red and blue lights reflected off nearby buildings. She took out her phone to update Jordan on her delayed arrival, her fingers steady as she typed. The afternoon sun cast long shadows through Jordan's office windows as Elena sat across from her attorney's desk. Files and photographs from the parking garage incident were spread between them. Each image a testament to the morning's violence. They're spinning this faster than I expected, Jordan said, tapping a freshly printed news article. Look at this headline. Unstable veteran attacks officers in parking structure. They're painting you as someone who seeks out confrontation. Elena leaned forward, scanning the article. Her jaw tightened at the quotes from anonymous department sources describing her as a threat to public safety. They moved quickly. Thorne is smarter than he looks, Jordan admitted, shuffling through more papers. He's already been to the DA's office. My contact there says he spent 2 hours with Vale this morning, right after the garage incident. Let me guess, they're expediting the charges. Jordan nodded grimly. Vale's calling it a matter of public safety. They're trying to fast-track your prosecution before we can gather more evidence of their corruption. Elena stood, pacing the length of Jordan's office. The carpet muffled her steps as she moved past the law degrees and civic awards adorning the walls. They're desperate, those deputies this morning. They were scared, not just of me, but of Thorne. One of them said Thorne would kill them if they failed. That tracks with what I've been hearing. Jordan pulled out another file. 3 complaints in the last year about officers claiming they were forced to falsify reports. All dismissed, of course, but there's a pattern of intimidation within the department. We need to go higher, Elena said, stopping at the window. Below, pedestrians moved along the sidewalk, unaware of the corruption festering in their community. Federal oversight. I have a contact at the Justice Department, Marcus Hale. He specializes in department-wide corruption cases. Jordan picked up her phone. He's been looking for a way into this jurisdiction for months. Your case might be exactly what he needs. Make the call, Elena agreed. But Thorne will retaliate as soon as he knows we're reaching out to the feds. He's already retaliating. Jordan pulled up an email on her computer. Just got this from a courthouse clerk. Thorne called an emergency meeting with his senior deputies an hour ago. Closed door, no records, planning their next move. My source says Thorne was livid. Kept talking about containing you before you could do more damage. One deputy suggested backing off, letting things cool down. Jordan's expression darkened. Thorne threatened his family. Elena absorbed this. Her military training helping her process the escalating threat. He's showing weakness. Strong leaders don't need to threaten their own people, but wounded animals are the most dangerous, Jordan warned. And Thorne has the whole department acting like his personal attack dogs. A knock at the door interrupted them. Jordan's assistant entered with more files. These just came from traffic court. They're issuing citations against Ms. Hayes' vehicle, expired registration, improper equipment, missing plates, all fabricated, Jordan said, scanning the documents. They're trying to build a paper trail. Make you look like a chronic offender. Small-time intimidation, Elena observed. They're throwing everything they can think of, hoping something sticks. It's more than that. Jordan spread out the citations. They're establishing a pattern. Each citation gives them an excuse to pull you over. They're setting up future confrontations. Elena studied the papers, noting how each violation had been carefully crafted to appear legitimate. They're learning. This morning, they tried brute force. Now they're using bureaucracy as a weapon, which is why we need federal involvement immediately. Jordan reached for her phone again. Hale can freeze these citations, prevent them from filing more. But we have to move fast. How long until he can get here? If I reach him today, maybe 48 hours. But that's 2 days Thorne can use to escalate things further. Elena nodded, already formulating contingency plans. I'll be ready. They won't catch me off guard again. There's something else. Jordan hesitated, then pulled out one final document. Thorne filed a motion to revoke your bail, claiming you're a danger to his officers. Judge Harlan is reviewing it now. Harlan, isn't he the one who golfs with Vale every Sunday? Jordan's expression was grim. The system here is a closed loop, Elena. They protect each other, cover for each other. Breaking that loop won't be easy. It never is. Elena gathered her things, preparing to leave. But systems like this have weak points. We just have to find them. The drive home was tense. Elena constantly checking her mirrors for patrol cars, but the department seemed to be keeping their distance for now. As she pulled into her driveway, the setting sun painted her house in deep orange and shadow. The citations were taped to her front door. Multiple sheets fluttering in the evening breeze, a pointed reminder that they could reach her anywhere, even here. Elena removed them one by one, noting how official they looked, how carefully they'd been crafted to appear legitimate. Standing in her doorway, she studied her quiet street. Somewhere out there, Thorne was planning his next move. More deputies were being pressured into corruption. More innocent people were at risk of becoming targets. What had started as a simple traffic stop had evolved into something much larger. This wasn't just about defending herself anymore. It was about exposing a system that had rotted from within, about protecting a community that didn't even realize how deeply the corruption ran. The evening air grew cooler as darkness crept in. Elena stood motionless, citations in hand, feeling the weight of the fight ahead. Dismantling an entire corrupt system wouldn't be quick or easy, but she had faced worse odds before. The neon beer signs cast a sickly glow across the parking lot of Allie's bar as Elena pulled in. The sun was setting behind the building, painting the sky in deep purples and oranges. She'd chosen this time carefully. Shift change meant maximum off-duty officers would be present. Allie's had been a cop bar for decades. The wooden sign above the door was weathered, barely legible in the growing darkness. Elena took a deep breath, centered herself, and pushed through the heavy door. The effect was immediate. Conversations died mid-sentence. Heads turned, eyes narrowed. The place reeked of stale beer and hostility. At least 15 off-duty officers occupied various tables and bar stools, all now laser-focused on her presence. Elena moved with deliberate calm to the bar, feeling the weight of their stares. The bartender, a heavy-set man with graying temples, approached. With visible reluctance. "Water," she said simply. He placed a glass in front of her without comment, then retreated to the far end of the bar where a cluster of officers huddled, speaking in low voices. Elena didn't turn around. She didn't need to. The mirror behind the bar gave her a perfect view of the room. Deputy Vance sat at a corner table with 4 other officers, his face flushed from alcohol. His voice carried clearly across the now quiet space. "Told Thorne not to worry about it. Judge Harlan's got his back. Been that way since they were rookies together." One of his companions glanced nervously in Elena's direction. Vance laughed louder now, clearly wanting her to hear. "What's she going to do? That dash cam footage is gone. Thorne made sure of it himself. Stayed late to wipe everything clean. No evidence means her word against ours, and we all know how that plays out in Harlan's court." Elena took a slow sip of water, memorizing details. The mirror showed 3 officers by the pool table beginning to move, positioning themselves between her and the exit. Their movements were clumsy. They'd been drinking heavily. She stood, turning to face Vance's table. The bar grew even quieter, tension crackling in the air. Each step toward his table echoed against the wooden floor. "That footage showed everything, didn't it?" she asked calmly. "That's why Thorne was so eager to destroy it." Vance's face twisted with anger. "You got some nerve coming in here." "Just confirming facts," Elena said. "Like how Judge Harlan takes bribes to dismiss cases against corrupt officers." One of the drunk officers from the pool table grabbed her shoulder. "Time for you to leave." Elena didn't move. "Take your hand off me or what?" A second officer moved in, breath heavy with whiskey. "You're outnumbered here. Last warning," Elena said quietly. The third officer lunged, trying to grab her arm. Elena shifted, redirecting his momentum. He crashed into a table, sending glasses shattering across the floor. The first officer swung a wild punch. She blocked it easily, using his own force to spin him into the second attacker. They stumbled, cursing. One grabbed a chair, swinging it like a club. Elena stepped inside his reach. The chair splintered against the bar as she took him down with a precise strike to the solar plexus. He crumpled, gasping. The remaining officers attacked together, coordinating despite their drunkenness. Elena moved with fluid efficiency, never wasting motion. One swing left a dent in the wall where her head had been a moment before. She countered with an elbow strike that dropped the attacker to his knees. The last officer backed away, eyes wide with fear. Behind her, she heard chairs scraping as other cops stood, but no one moved to help. They'd seen what happened to the first 3. "The footage," Elena said, turning back to Vance. Thorne deleted it personally. Vance's face was pale now, the alcohol bravado gone. "You're crazy coming here like this. Answer the question." "Yeah," he spat. He wiped everything. Security footage, too. Spent 2 hours making sure nothing survived. "Happy now?" "Extremely." Elena surveyed the room. Several officers had phones out recording. "Perfect. More evidence for Jordan." Anyone else want to add anything about Judge Harlan's special relationship with the department? Silence answered her. The 3 officers she'd disabled were still on the floor, moaning softly. Behind the bar, the bartender had disappeared, probably calling for backup. "Then we're done here." She moved toward the exit, maintaining awareness of every person in the room. No one tried to stop her. They watched with a mixture of fear and fury as she reached the door. The night air felt cool against her skin as she stepped outside. Stars were beginning to appear in the darkening sky. She could hear sirens in the distance, the cavalry finally responding to the bartender's call, but they were too late. She had what she needed. Elena pulled out her phone, already composing a message to Jordan about Thorne personally destroying evidence and Judge Harlan's corruption. The pieces were falling into place. Each confrontation revealed more of their network, more proof of how deep the rot went. The bar door opened behind her. A voice called out thick with pain and rage. "This isn't over." She didn't bother turning around. Their threats were empty now, born of desperation and wounded pride. The real fight wasn't with drunk officers in a bar. It was with the system that protected them. The corrupt officials who enabled their behavior. Elena got into her car, watching in the rear-view mirror as more officers stumbled out of alleys. They looked lost. Their illusion of untouchable power shattered along with that chair. She started the engine, already focusing on the next step. The evidence was destroyed, but now she had witnesses who'd admitted to its destruction. It wasn't ideal, but Jordan would know how to use it. The sirens grew louder as she pulled away from the bar, leaving behind a scene of broken furniture, bruised egos, and the first real cracks in the department's wall of silence. The morning sun cast long shadows across the empty road as Elena headed toward Jordan's office. Her phone propped on the dashboard displayed a carefully organized summary of last night's revelations at Alley's. The recorded confessions about Thorne and Judge Harlan would blow this case wide open. A flash of white and blue in her rear-view mirror caught her attention. A patrol SUV had appeared behind her, following uncomfortably close. Elena checked her speed, exactly at the limit. The SUV's grille filled her mirror close enough that she could make out the driver's face. Officer Lang, one of Thorne's most loyal attack dogs. "Here we go," she muttered, gripping the wheel tighter. The patrol vehicle swerved into the oncoming lane, engine roaring as it pulled alongside her. Lang's partner, Croft, sat in the passenger seat, both men wearing expressions of pure hatred. Elena maintained her speed, watching as Lang jerked his wheel toward her. The first impact was tentative, a warning bump that made her tires squeal. She countered with a defensive driving technique, maintaining control while appearing to struggle. "Come on," she said quietly. "Show me what you're really here for." As if hearing her challenge, Lang slammed his SUV into her car with full force. The impact sent shudders through her vehicle, but Elena was ready. She'd already activated her phone's camera, mounted to capture everything. The road ahead curved sharply to the right, bordered by a steep ditch. Lang accelerated, trying to pin her against the guardrail. Instead of fighting it, Elena tapped her brakes. The patrol SUV shot forward, overshooting its mark. "Amateur hour," she said, watching Lang struggle with his steering. His vehicle fishtail-ed, tires leaving black streaks on the asphalt. Croft grabbed the dashboard, panic clear on his face. Elena executed a perfect pursuit intervention technique. A precision tap to the patrol SUV's rear quarter panel. The effect was devastating. Lang overcompensated, sending the vehicle into an uncontrollable spin. The patrol SUV careened across both lanes, hit the shoulder, and rolled once before settling in the ditch. Steam hissed from the crumpled hood. Elena pulled over, positioning her car to block any escape routes. Lang kicked his door open, stumbling out with his hand on his holster. "You're dead," he screamed, but his voice shook. Blood trickled from a cut on his forehead. "Stay where you are," Elena called out. "Phone recording everything. Keep your hands visible." Croft emerged from the passenger side, already reaching for his radio. "Unit 47, officer down." Elena moved with practiced efficiency. 2 quick strikes dropped Lang before he could draw his weapon. Croft backed away, fumbling with his radio. "Shots fired, shots." She closed the distance in 3 steps, sweeping his legs and pinning him face down. "No shots fired," she said calmly, securing his arms. "Just like there was no reason for you to try running me off the road. Thorne will kill you for this," Lang groaned from where he lay. "Add that threat to the recording," Elena replied, checking both officers for serious injuries. Finding none, she used their own handcuffs to secure them to their vehicle's push bar. The whole encounter had lasted less than 2 minutes. Elena returned to her car, reviewing the footage. Every second was clear. The unprovoked attack, their attempts to cause a fatal crash, and Lang's final threat. She created multiple backups, sending copies to Jordan and the federal tip line she'd been given. Steam continued rising from the patrol SUV's mangled hood. The front axle was clearly broken and fluid leaked steadily into the dirt. Both officers stared at her with a mixture of hatred and fear as she prepared to leave. "You know what the difference is between us?" she asked them. "I could have killed you both easily. Instead, you'll live to face consequences." She nodded toward her phone. "Everything's recorded. Your careers are over. Thorne owns this county." Croft spat. "You got nothing. Look around." Elena said, "Your vehicle's destroyed. You're handcuffed to your own bumper. Your attack failed completely. Still think Thorne is winning?" Neither officer responded. In the distance, sirens began to wail, likely their backup, finally responding to the aborted radio call. Elena got into her car, checking the time. She'd still make her meeting with Jordan now with even more evidence of the department's desperation. "Backup's coming," Lang called out weakly. "You won't get far." Elena started her engine. "I'm not running. I'll be at my lawyer's office filing assault charges against both of you. Feel free to send more officers. We'll add witness intimidation to the list." She pulled away smoothly, watching in her mirror as the patrol SUV's hood released another cloud of steam. The morning sun caught the smoke, making it glow like a signal fire. Let them come, she thought. Each attack only proved how corrupt they were, how far they'd go to protect their power. The sirens grew louder behind her, but Elena maintained exactly the speed limit. Her phone buzzed. Jordan had received the footage and was already preparing motions. The federal tip line had also responded, requesting an immediate interview. The road stretched ahead, empty now, except for the approaching police cars in her mirror. Their desperate attack had failed, just like every other attempt to silence her. More importantly, they'd proven exactly what she'd been saying. This wasn't about one traffic stop or a few bad officers. This was about a system so corrupt that its members would attempt murder in broad daylight, confident they'd face no consequences. Elena checked her mirror one last time. The smoking patrol SUV was barely visible now, but she could imagine Lang and Croft trying to explain this disaster to their arriving colleagues. Their story wouldn't match the video evidence. Their careers built on bullying and corruption were finally crumbling. She turned onto the highway leading to Jordan's office, ready to add this latest attack to their growing mountain of evidence. Behind her, more sirens joined the chorus. The sound of a corrupt system in its death throes, lashing out with increasing desperation. Sunlight streamed through the windows of Jordan's downtown office as Elena spread printouts, photos, and video files across the conference table. Her morning confrontation with Lang and Croft had left her jacket dusty, but she hadn't taken time to change. This evidence needed to be organized immediately. "They're getting bolder," Jordan said, examining stills from the patrol SUV attack. "Attempting murder in broad daylight. Thorne must be desperate." Elena nodded, pulling up the bar footage on her laptop. "Listen to this part again." She played a clip of Vance's drunken boasting about Judge Harlan's connection to Thorne. The audio was clear despite the background noise. "That's the missing link we needed," Jordan said, making notes. "Proves the corruption goes beyond the department." She paused as someone knocked on the office door. "That should be our federal contact." Investigator Marcus Hale entered, his suit crisp despite the Georgia heat. He carried a thick folder and wore an expression of controlled anger. "Commander Hayes," he said, extending his hand. "I've spent the morning reviewing your evidence. I apologize. It took a murder attempt to get our attention." "Just call me Elena," she replied, studying his face for any sign of departmental loyalty. She found none. Just professional determination. "I've opened an official inquiry," Hale said, laying out his own files. "Your documentation is exceptional. Military precision in the notes, multiple camera angles, clear chain of evidence." He tapped the photos of her original traffic stop injuries. "But it's the pattern that concerns me most. This isn't random brutality, it's systematic." Jordan pulled up more files on her computer. "We've identified similar cases going back 5 years, all involving Lieutenant Thorne or officers under his command. All targeting black drivers, all with mysteriously missing evidence, except this time," Elena added, "they picked someone who could fight back and knew how to document everything." Hale nodded grimly. "My team visited the station this morning. The panic was immediate. Several officers suddenly requested vacation time. Others started shredding files until we stopped them." "Thorne was there?" Jordan asked. "Left as soon as he saw our badges, but not before we secured the computer systems." Hale opened his folder, revealing screenshots of internal emails. "Your traffic stop wasn't spontaneous, Commander. They tracked your vehicle for days, planning the confrontation. Thorne personally selected the officers involved." Elena felt her jaw tighten. "Because I'm black and drive a nice car partially, but also because they'd observed you visiting your mother. They assumed having family in their jurisdiction would make you vulnerable to pressure." Hale's expression hardened. "They've used similar tactics before, threatening relatives to force victims into silence." "Not this time," Elena said quietly, her voice carrying absolute certainty. Jordan's phone buzzed. She checked it and frowned. Thorne is already responding to the federal presence. He's called an emergency press conference for this afternoon. Let me guess, Elena said. More claims about my military aggression issues. Worse, Jordan replied. He's trying to paint you as a domestic terrorist. Says your combat training makes you a threat to public safety. She showed them the press release. He's demanding federal authorities arrest you, not investigate him. Hale shook his head. Classic deflection. But it won't work. We have his departmental emails discussing how to provoke you into a reaction. He wanted violence. He just didn't expect you'd survive it and document everything. They spent the next hour reviewing evidence for the preliminary hearing. Hale confirmed the federal investigation would take precedence over local charges, effectively neutralizing Judge Harlan's influence. Every new piece of evidence revealed deeper corruption, falsified reports, missing dash cam footage, coordinated harassment campaigns against other victims. The roadside attack this morning was sloppy. Hale noted watching the video again. They're unraveling, making mistakes, which makes them more dangerous. Elena said, men like Thorne would rather destroy everything than lose control. Jordan's assistant interrupted with more news. Multiple deputies had walked off the job, refusing to follow Thorne's increasingly erratic orders. Others were calling the federal tip line, offering to testify about years of misconduct. The thin blue line is cracking, Hale said. Once officers realize federal charges are possible, loyalty to Thorne becomes a liability. He won't accept that, Jordan warned. His whole identity is built on power, on being untouchable. Then we make sure every attack backfires, Elena said firmly. Every threat becomes evidence. Every attempt to silence us proves our case. They prepared for the preliminary hearing scheduled for the following week. Jordan organized witness statements from other victims. Hale added federal charges to the growing list of violations. Elena provided tactical analysis of each confrontation, proving the escalating pattern of violence. One concern, Hale said as they finished. Thorne still has supporters in the department. They're watching your movements, logging your contacts. Standard intimidation tactics. Let them watch, Elena replied. Every surveillance attempt is another civil rights violation to document. The meeting concluded with a clear strategy. Jordan would handle legal proceedings while Hale expanded the federal investigation. Elena would continue gathering evidence while maintaining her defensive posture against further attacks. Stay alert, Hale advised as they prepared to leave. Thorne is the type to take this personally. His power structure is crumbling and he knows it. Elena gathered her files, noting how the evidence now filled multiple boxes. Each attempt to silence her had only made their case stronger. The very tactics meant to protect their corruption were exposing it instead. Jordan walked her to the elevator. We'll need you back tomorrow to prepare for depositions. My security team can escort you. I'll be fine, Elena assured her. They've learned direct confrontation doesn't work. The elevator opened to the lobby, its mirrored walls reflecting her determined expression. Through the glass doors, she could see the street clearly. An unmarked Crown Victoria sat across the intersection, its occupants poorly concealing their surveillance. Elena straightened her jacket, checking that her phone was still recording. Let them watch, she thought. Let them see what real strength looks like. Every moment they spent monitoring her was another moment their corrupt system weakened. The department's desperation was becoming more obvious with each passing hour. Their power built on decades of unchecked authority was finally facing real consequences. And Elena intended to see those consequences through to the end. The wooden benches creaked under the weight of spectators as Elena entered the crowded courtroom. Every seat was filled with people standing against the back wall. News of federal involvement had drawn reporters, civil rights activists, and countless citizens who'd experienced similar abuse. Jordan walked beside her, briefcase filled with evidence. Investigator Hale sat at a separate table, his presence adding federal weight to the proceedings. Across the aisle, Lieutenant Thorne and his department lawyer projected false confidence. Judge Kensington entered and the room stood. Unlike Judge Harlan, who'd recused himself. After his connections to Thorne emerged, Kensington had a reputation for independence. Her expression revealed nothing as she reviewed the morning's motions. We'll begin with the federal evidence, Kensington announced, nodding to Investigator Hale. Hale approached the bench with a digital recorder and transcripts. Your Honor, during our investigation of missing dash cam footage, we recovered backup audio from officer body microphones. Department policy requires these recordings be preserved for 90 days. They were deliberately hidden in a miscategorized archive. Thorne shifted in his chair as Hale connected the audio system. His lawyer whispered urgently in his ear. The first recording is from Deputy Harlan's microphone, time-stamped to the initial traffic stop, Hale explained. The courtroom fell silent as Harlan's voice filled the space. Look at this one. Driving Daddy's car, I bet. These people always trying to show off what they ain't earned. Vance's voice followed. Time to teach some respect. Been too long since we had a good one. The racial slurs that followed made several spectators gasp. The recording captured their approaching footsteps, the aggressive commands, and most crucially, their discussion of using force before any interaction occurred. Harlan, watch this. Going to make her squirm. Vance, just don't leave marks where cameras can see. You know the drill. Jordan stood. Your Honor, this proves premeditation. The officers planned to use excessive force before any contact with my client. The department lawyer objected, claiming the recordings could have been altered. Judge Kensington overruled immediately. The Federal Forensics Lab has authenticated these recordings. Hale stated, we have continuous audio from multiple officers' devices. He played another clip the moment they dragged Elena from her vehicle. The sounds of impact were clear along with their taunting comments about putting her in her place. The recording captured Elena's calm warnings followed by the distinct buzz of Harlan's taser. Several jurors visibly recoiled at the officer's language and threats. Even Judge Kensington's neutral expression cracked slightly. The prosecution has charged Commander Hayes with assaulting officers and resisting arrest. Jordan addressed the court. These recordings prove she acted in self-defense against an orchestrated attack motivated by racial bias. Thorne's face had turned deep red. His hands gripped the table edge until his knuckles went white. Hale presented more evidence. Internal emails showing the department's pattern of targeting black drivers. Testimony from officers who'd quit rather than participate in Thorne's schemes. Data proving systematic evidence destruction. Your Honor, the department lawyer attempted. These recordings were obtained without proper. They were obtained through standard federal investigation protocols. Judge Kensington cut him off and they revealed deeply disturbing conduct by law enforcement officers. Elena watched Thorne carefully. His composure was crumbling. The carefully constructed image of authority he'd maintained for decades was dissolving in real time. Judge Kensington reviewed the transcripts again. Based on this evidence, I'm dismissing the charges of assaulting an officer and resisting arrest. Commander Hayes's actions clearly constitute self-defense against excessive force and civil rights violations. A wave of whispers swept through the courtroom. Thorne shot to his feet. This is nonsense, he shouted. She attacked my officers. We can't let these people. Lieutenant Thorne. Judge Kensington's voice cracked like a whip. Control yourself or be held in contempt. Your choice of words is telling. Jordan stood. Your Honor, given the clear evidence of civil rights violations, we move to dismiss all remaining charges against my client. So ordered, Kensington replied without hesitation. Furthermore, I'm referring this matter to the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division for additional investigation. The gallery erupted in murmurs. Years of unchecked abuse were finally facing consequences. Elena remained composed, but inside she felt the first real relief since that night on the highway. Thorne stormed out, shouldering past reporters. His lawyer trailed behind, already distancing himself from the collapse. Commander, Judge Kensington addressed her directly. I apologize for the ordeal you've endured. This court failed in its duty to protect citizens from abuse of power. Elena nodded respectfully. Thank you, Your Honor. After the judge departed, well-wishers surrounded Elena and Jordan. Hale joined them, his usually stern expression softened slightly. This is just the beginning, he said quietly. The federal investigation will continue. More victims are coming forward. Good, Elena replied. The whole system needs exposure. They made their way through the courthouse halls, past cameras and microphones. Jordan handled the press questions while Elena moved steadily toward the exit. The noon sun felt warm and cleansing as she stepped outside. For the first time since the traffic stop, she felt the weight lifting. Not gone entirely, there would be more battles ahead. But the momentum had shifted. Truth was finally breaking through decades of silence and intimidation. Standing on the courthouse steps, Elena watched citizens gathering, sharing stories of their own encounters with departmental abuse. Each person who spoke up added another crack to the wall of impunity Thorne had built. Jordan joined her outside. The judge's ruling opens the door for civil suits. Other victims can now come forward with solid legal precedent. Elena nodded, feeling the warm breeze and watching more community members arrive to show support. The system's power had always depended on isolation, making each victim feel alone and helpless. That isolation was breaking down, replaced by unity and determination. The sunset painted long shadows across Elena's driveway as she pulled in. Her shoulders finally relaxing after weeks of tension. The courthouse victory felt substantial, like the first real crack in Thorne's armor. She collected her jacket and briefcase, allowing herself a small smile. Inside, she kicked off her shoes and poured a glass of water, replaying Judge Kensington's words. The validation felt good, but more importantly, it opened doors for others to come forward. Maybe the system could change, even if slowly. Her phone buzzed, her mother's number lighting up the screen, but it wasn't her mother's voice that came through. It was her neighbor, Mrs. Taylor, speaking in panicked tones. "Elena, they're here. 4 patrol cars. They're going into your mama's house right now." The glass slipped from Elena's hand, shattering on the kitchen tile. "What? Who's there?" "The sheriff's department. They're saying something about obstruction charges, evidence tampering. Your mama was just sitting on her porch. They're being so rough with her." Elena was already moving, grabbing her keys. "Call Jordan's office. Tell them exactly what's happening. I'm on my way." She hadn't made it to her car when her phone exploded with notifications. News alerts, text messages, social media tags, all carrying variations of the same headline. Delta Force Commander Violent Past Exposed. Questions about mental stability. Her hands went cold as she opened the first link. There was her service photo alongside carefully selected mission details that had been twisted to paint her as unstable and dangerous. Classified information about her counterterrorism work had been leaked and deliberately misrepresented. The article quoted anonymous department sources describing her as trained in lethal tactics and potentially unstable from combat stress. They'd even dug up the names of teammates she'd lost, using their deaths to suggest she harbored deep-seated rage issues. Her phone rang again. "Jordan, this time. They're crucifying you on every channel," Jordan said without preamble. Thorne must have connections in military intelligence. This leak came from somewhere high up. "They have my mother." Elena's voice was tight. 4 patrol cars at her house. "I know. I've got people heading there now. But Elena, this is coordinated. They're trying to destroy your credibility." Before a loud knocking interrupted them. Through her window, Elena saw camera crews assembling on her lawn. News vans were double parking along her quiet street. "They're here, too," she told Jordan. "Don't engage. Don't answer anything. They're trying to provoke a reaction they can use against you." The knocking became pounding. Camera flashes strobed through her windows as reporters pressed against the glass, shouting questions. "Commander Hayes, is it true you were discharged for excessive force? Did your combat experience make you attack those officers? Are you currently under psychiatric care?" Elena moved away from the windows, her tactical training kicking in as she assessed sight lines and vulnerabilities. The house felt suddenly exposed like a target under a spotlight. Her phone lit up with another call. "Mrs. Taylor again. They put her in handcuffs, Elena. Your mama's crying, but they won't let me near her. They're saying she destroyed evidence, but she ain't done nothing." Elena's hands clenched. "Is she hurt?" They grabbed her arms so rough. She kept asking for her heart medicine, but they wouldn't let her get it. "Stay with her if you can. I'm sending my lawyer." More pounding at her door. More shouted questions. Her phone buzzed constantly with news alerts, each headline worse than the last. "Decorated commander or dangerous vigilante. Violence follows. Hayes' pattern of aggressive incidents." Sources. Hayes's unit suffered heavy losses under her command. She moved through her darkening house, switching off lights to make it harder for cameras to see inside. The reporter's questions became more pointed, more provocative. "Did losing your team make you snap? Were the officers right to fear for their safety? Should someone with your training be allowed to live freely?" Elena's phone buzzed with a text from Jordan. "Your mother's being processed at county jail. Thorne himself signed the warrant. Working on bail now." Another text followed. "Warning. They're painting you as unstable. Want you to react badly. Don't give them anything." Elena sank onto her couch in the darkness, feeling the walls closing in. Everything she'd built, every sacrifice she'd made. Thorne was twisting it all into ammunition. Her service, her losses, her dedication to protecting others. He'd turned them into weapons against her. The reporters outside kept shouting their questions designed to wound. Did you enjoy hurting those officers like you hurt enemy combatants? How many people died under your command? Are you a danger to the public? She thought of her mother, terrified and alone in a jail cell, denied her medication. Thought of her teammates, their memories being twisted into tabloid fodder. Thought of every person Thorne had ever abused, knowing he believed himself untouchable. The darkness felt heavy as Elena sat motionless, letting the truth settle in her chest. The system wouldn't stop. It would keep coming, keep hurting people she loved, keep twisting reality until she was destroyed. Unless she destroyed it first. The camera flashes continued outside, lighting up her living room in harsh bursts. But Elena barely noticed them now. Her mind was already shifting, analyzing patterns and weaknesses, identifying pressure points in Thorne's network of corruption. She'd tried playing defense, tried working within the system. That approach had just put her mother in jail and turned her service into a scandal. The darkness wrapped around her like a tactical cloak as she sat absolutely still, letting the rage focus her thoughts into cold precision. She'd fought against systemic evil before. She knew how to dismantle hostile networks. And she'd never lost when the mission truly mattered. Morning sunlight sliced through Elena's bedroom blinds, casting tiger-striped shadows across her bare walls. She hadn't slept, hadn't even tried. The night had been spent processing intel, mapping connections, identifying weak points in Thorne's network. Her mother was still in custody, denied bail on obviously trumped-up charges. The media circus continued outside, though the crowd had thinned to just two persistent news vans. Their presence didn't matter anymore. She was done playing defense. Elena moved through her morning routine with mechanical precision. Cold shower, protein bar, black coffee. Her tactical mindset had fully engaged, treating this like any other hostile network that needed dismantling. She packed her evidence files into a secured briefcase, recordings, timestamps, witness statements, financial records she'd gathered through back channels. The reporters followed her to her SUV, desperate for any reaction they could twist into controversy. She gave them nothing. 20 minutes later, she walked into Jordan's office. The attorney was already there with investigator Hale, both looking grave as they watched a morning news segment about Elena's troubled military past. They're really pushing the unstable veteran angle, Jordan said, muting the TV. Your mother's still being held without. I know where this goes next, Elena interrupted, setting her briefcase on the desk. Thorne will keep escalating until someone dies. So, we end it first. She pulled out her files, spreading them across Jordan's desk in precise rows. Private prison corporations showing massive profit spikes every time Thorne's department conducts special enforcement periods. Traffic stop quotas targeting specific neighborhoods. Kickback patterns disguised as consulting fees. Hale picked up one of the documents. Eyebrows rising. How did you get these financial records? I have contacts who owed me favors. Everything's authenticated. Elena tapped another folder. 3 years of dash cam footage Thorne claimed was accidentally deleted. Backed up on private servers shows a clear pattern of targeted harassment and excessive force. Jordan leaned forward. This is exactly what we need. But it's also incredibly dangerous. These corporations have serious political influence. They also have a serious paper trail. Elena said, names, dates, dollar amounts, enough to trigger multiple federal investigations. She turned to Hale. That's where you come in. The investigator nodded slowly, still scanning the documents. This level of coordination between law enforcement and private prisons. It's systemic corruption. But Elena, if we move on this, they won't just try to discredit you. They'll try to eliminate you. They already are. Elena's voice was steel. But now we have proof of why. Show them how much money they're making off false arrests. Show them the kickback patterns. Show them everything. Jordan spread out more files. Her legal mind already building cases. We'll need protection for witnesses. Several of these officers might flip if offered immunity. Already handled, Hale said. I've got a task force on standby. But timing is crucial. If Thorne realizes we have all this, he'll burn everything and run. Elena finished. That's why we trigger him first. Make him react without thinking. She pulled out a final file. Surveillance photos showing Thorne meeting with prison executives in private locations. He's already paranoid. When these hit the media, he'll assume someone in his inner circle betrayed him. He'll make mistakes. Jordan looked concerned. He'll also become more dangerous. You're literally threatening his entire power structure. Good. Alina's voice was cold. Let him feel threatened. Let him gather his most loyal thugs. Let him think he can still solve this with force. She checked her watch. In fact, he's probably already planning something. Hale straightened. You think he'll make a direct move against you? I'm counting on it. But this time, we control where and when. Elena pointed to a map showing an abandoned impound lot on the edge of town. It's isolated. No civilians, limited ESC.